You ever had a show or a movie that you would watch a lot as a kid but nobody else ever talked about? Well, for me, that cartoon would have to be Skatoony. It ran for a total of 3 seasons with 39 episodes on Cartoon Network back in 2006. I watched this show all the time, and when I said nobody talks about it, I mean nobody talks about it. I've looked all over YouTube, searched it up once, and I've barely seen anyone even mention it. So I decided why not make a video about it for some sweet views before the rest of you take my idea. Cosmodor, more like Cosmos Snore, cause you sure were sleeping through this idea. Alpha Jeshu, more like Alpha May you not take my idea show. Veilskabum 94, more like fucking retard.
Hello everybody, Veilskabum94 here, and I just found this cartoon called Skatoony completely on my own. And because I ran out of video topics since I upload twice a day, I thought why not take a look at it.
Let's talk about the story of Skatoony. Yes, I know I pronounce it weird. While the show didn't air until 2006, I found adverts using the hosts from it as far back as 2001. The history for this show actually goes a long ways back. To my knowledge, it started as a competition on the Cartoon Network website, and then moved over to a couple phone-in shows like Ready Steady Skatoony, Skatoony Quizmas, and Skatoony Truckatoony, where a kid would watch and see if their name appeared on screen, and if it did, then they'd get a bunch of toys delivered to their house.
Tune into Skatoony Truckatoony!
And you could be a winner! Just like these lucky truckers!
Even though it was live action, it was hosted by 2 animated characters, Chud Chudders and his co-host, the Earl. I can't actually find these shows anywhere online, just promos for them. But I would like to see them someday, to see how similar the actual show is to it. I guess the events must have done well, because in 2006 it was turned into a full TV series. It kept the game show aspect, but this time mixed in some cartoon contestants with the live action ones. It's a really unique concept, even if it makes the game show part a little redundant. Since the winner wins a prize at the end, obviously none of the animated characters can win. Sorry little girl, this Nintendo Wii is going to this squid thing. Oh wait, it doesn't exist. Oh well. Guess I'll just keep it then. It makes me really curious in the behind the scenes of the show. The kids do interact with the animated characters, and since they gain points and all, it must be at least somewhat staged. What if it was all staged? Those aren't really kids. They're
Actors.
This is all too much to take in at once. Maybe we should just move on to the story. Talking about the story of a game show, haha, I know. But each episode does actually have a plot spliced in between the game show parts. This was a lot more prevalent in later seasons though. Early episodes would usually have a couple running gags in between the rounds, but as the show went on, this turned into storylines that ran throughout the whole episode, whether it be the characters getting lost at sea, or their quiz block escaping from the studio. The main story of the show, which is less of a story and more like context behind what is going on, is that Chud Chudders and the Earl are the hosts of a game show called Skatoony, taking place in Showtown, that pits animated cartoon characters against live action kids, with other recurring characters like the Gorilla Who and greedy boss Charles LePuck. I don't remember that being his name. That's not what he looked like either. Weird.
What do you say, Earl?
I say let's get cracking and meet the contestant.
And hey, I don't remember them sounding like that either. Oh, wait, this is the North American version. See, Skatoony started as a show that only aired in the UK, but in 2009 was remade for the US. I was surprised at just how many differences there are between the versions. First, there are the voices. In the UK, the hosts are voiced by Rupert Dagus and Lewis McLeod respectively, but both were replaced in the US version.
What? Replace me? I don't think...
You got a deal!
Oh, shucks.
Hey, Hunty, like, what is your head made of, exactly?
They also, for some bizarre reason, decided to change their boss completely. He was originally called Tony Eagle Eyes and sounded like a mobster, but they changed him into a generic rich guy for the US version.
Abandoned studio! Women and greedy men with mustaches first!
Abandoned studio! Women and greedy men with the word puck in their last name first!
By far the strangest change was the addition of actual cartoon characters from other shows. And by other shows I mean Total Drama and Jimmy Two Shoes. These guest contestants would replace one of the fake cartoons they had in the British version, which seems like a lot of extra work to go through just to have an actual cartoon character. Even with all this stuff changed, the plots are exactly the same, they just right around the differences. Call it bias, but I prefer the UK version. The voices, especially for Chud, are a lot less obnoxious, And while the US version does have stuff like actual cartoon contestants instead of these cheap knockoff characters, better visuals, higher production, and... okay, yeah, it's bias. By taking one look at this show, you can immediately tell it was animated in Flash. It doesn't look very good. Everything is really stilted and... does he need to go to the hospital? It's not horrible or anything, but it's really generic and there's nothing much to talk about with it. You'd think that having characters from other shows would look jarring, but the style being so basic actually works in its favour in this case. I like the designs of the two hosts. That weird thing going on with Chud's nose aside, but the fake contestants vary from, alright, to... ugh. If there's anything good to say about it, I think the backgrounds look nice. The studio has a fun aesthetic, and when they do leave the studio, it makes that episode stand out more because of the unique setting. Overall, the animation is decent in some places, but it ultimately comes off as stiff and generic due to the lackluster designs. And it's not because of Flash. Flash animation can look amazing when you have the right people behind it, but it definitely doesn't help when it comes to the stilted cuts. Seriously, does he need help? There's not much to talk about with the writing because, again, game show. But I'll talk about what little of it there is. The structure of each episode is the exact same each time. Intro, round 1, gag, round 2, gag, round 3, gag, quiz champ challenge, outro. Like I said before, the earlier episodes focused a lot more on running jokes, while the later episodes usually have something happen to the characters that result in a nice change of scenery. Jumping between the game show parts and a story should be weird and jarring, but they managed to pull it off by having whatever is happening in the plot be used as a timer for the rounds. Like for example, the studio is sliding across the road heading for the ocean, so they use the amount of time it takes them to get there as a time limit for their first round, so by the time the round is over, they're ready to get back into the plot. It gives the show a nice sense of flow. Apparently the show is really tedious to write and plan for. First they'd have to plan out the episode and script it partially, then while the kids were doing the quiz segments, they'd have to use stand-in actors to weave in the script. To talk about the actual quiz for a bit, I noticed that the US version was much easier than the UK version. The show ends with the last contestant having to correctly answer 10 questions in 90 seconds, but with the UK version, the kids just ask the question and they answer it without any help. And the questions can be pretty tough. But in the US version, the questions are multiple choice, and they're asked stuff like,
In the show Johnny Test, what is the name of Johnny's dog?
typical American scum. The comedy can be hit or miss. More often than not they fall flat due to the lackluster animation, or it being really juvenile, but occasionally there will be a joke that makes me laugh.
And I'm so hungry!
Now let's move on with your quick quizzing and play Blindfold Buffet! Hey! I do the quiz hosting around here, Mr. Hot Dog.
I think we can all agree with this guy here when we say, how? Just how did they make it? Sadly, we may never know. I've seen a couple people mention that they would air behind the scenes footage on Teletoon, but I can't find it anywhere. In the end, would I recommend watching Skatoony? Not really. For all the good things I said about it, it is just a game show. I still think the idea is good, and I think they executed it pretty well. So try watching an episode to see if you like it, but even if you do like it, would you even have an incentive to keep watching? Like I keep saying, it's just a game show. It's a fine game show, but it's a game show. After you watch one episode, you saw all there is to see. If I were to recommend a version though, it would have to be the US one. While I personally like the UK one more, especially due to the voices, I won't deny that the US one is better. I still love the show though, clearly showing my bias towards it. And I'll always remember it as that show I'd watch sometimes if SpongeBob wasn't on. I can't say I'm surprised nobody talks about the show. There's nothing really that special about it other than the concept, but I hope this video will inform more people about its existence. Or maybe it's just that nobody cares. And this whole video was for nothing. Mark here. Just saying that I've made a Patreon a little bit ago, so if you want to go check it out, you can get some cool perks, like getting your name at the end of my videos, or getting it read out by me, along with people like Spademan and Anonymous Dweeb. So yeah, I'd appreciate it if you checked it out. Alright, sorry, this outro's gone on way longer than it should have. So yeah, that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching.